Oh baby, and it's before the episode again. Thank you for listening. Part 2 was Zack Stovall coming right up. We got some new theme music just to keep it spicy, just to keep it a little sassy and brassy. Next episode, I'm going to give you guys a little taste of something new that I've been working on. Sorry about the hiatus. I've been crazy busy, but we're back now for a second, and you can listen to this thing. Thank you. Oh baby, everybody, and we're back. Welcome back to Words with Wayman. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're back. Sweet, spicy, sassy, Molassy, part 2. All around great guy, very multi-talented. Zack Stovall's back.
Hi.
Thank you for coming back 3 seconds later.
I'm here.
I made him walk outside and walk back inside, so it was actually a second episode.
Can't believe you made me change my shirt.
I know, that's why.
I don't know why this one is more.
Can't believe you
more
brought another
formal.
shirt and it was on the porch.
This is like I don't know why this episode is more formal than the last one. The tie seems
Had a tie.
necessary.
I took my shirt off and put a bow tie on because we're classy like that.
I mean, my pants already had pleats in them. I don't know why you made me change to another pair.
Because we're a couple fancy boys doing some fancy things.
We fancy.
We fancy.
We fancy AF.
We talked about a lot of cool stuff on the last one. We got into kind of how you started and how you did all of that. I got a couple other things. I'm going to law school coming up. You too.
Congrats.
Thank you. That wasn't me just plugging anything that I'm doing, but you thought about going to law school for a while. What happened there?
That was my goal from like 5th grade.
Really?
Until 5th grade until my senior year of college.
That's quite a long time.
Yeah.
Were you poli-sci?
Yeah, it's political science and philosophy.
Whoa.
Double useless.
Best lawyer ever.
Double useless. Yeah, so it was just, it was nothing I really thought about. I didn't really even think about like what I wanted to do outside of that. Cause, it was kind of something I had always like thought of. My dad was a police officer, and he knew kind of like, I think he saw like qualities in me that probably would make me an okay comedian, but like, also make me an okay like lawyer. Like I like reading. I was like well spoken as like a little kid, like kind of like thoughtful. He was like,
God, I'm gonna be a terrible lawyer.
Yeah. So no. No, I'm sure you'll be. No. I'm sure you'll be dead in a river. But
if everything goes according to plan.
Yeah, no, but so my dad was a homicide detective at one point, and he took me to a trial of a guy who had thrown in jail for
murdering a human.
Yeah, he murdered a police officer and shot another guy in the head.
Jesus.
And I met the guy who got shot in the head. He didn't die, and he was fine.
Nice.
But anyway, the prosecutor I remember was really cool and persuasive, and he was a really nice guy. And I ended up meeting him later and met some other like people. So I worked at these different like law firms throughout high school. Was like just a dumb courier, and it just in college it was like, oh, I hope I like poli-sci, and of course I love poli-sci, and then I like philosophy, and that all sort of like lent itself to that. And then I had some friends who were a couple of classes ahead of me. Like I don't, I just knew people who were already in law school. They'd come back to college for homecoming or this and that. Some of them went to the U of M, went to Memphis, so they would come back to Rhodes where I went, and they talk. And they all like had this look. And like, you know how when you were in junior high and your junior high teachers would get mad at you for not doing your work, and they'd say, hey, you can't do this in high school. And it was a big looming threat. And then you get to high school and you're like, hi,
I don't have to do a thing.
I can dick around. It's fine. I'm smart enough to get through the dicking around and still make these grades. And your high school teachers would go, hey, you can't be dicking around like this in college. And then you go to college and
you're
it's
like,
the
this
same
is easy.
thing. Like it's easy. Like it was fine. And there were just these like war-torn faces that were just like, Zach, you know how they tell you in high school and college you cannot dick around in law school. They were just like, and they were like, your first year they actively attempt to kick you out.
Absolutely, they want to get people out.
They want to weed you out. They want they want people who don't really want to be lawyers. They just want to have a JD.
Yes.
Like they try to get those people out. And I was just like thinking more and more about like what I wanted to do. I took the LSAT twice. And I took the summer in between my junior and senior year off. I had a really kid sister. She was like 7 or 8 at the time. So they were like, okay, great. We don't have to pay for like daycare or babysitter.
Oh,
we'll
nice.
just pay Zach. Kind of like we'll give him, fold money for weekends and pay for like lunches
Sweet
and
gig.
stuff, and then he can study for the LSAT when when Amanda's taking a nap or
Yeah.
in the off time. And I did, and I was like crushing it. Like, what's the highest score you can get on the LSAT?
180.
Yeah, so I was making like the 170s on like my practice test. I was like, all right, great, I'm gonna crush this, and then I'll go to law school or whatever. And I made a 155, which is okay for
good,
University
yeah.
of Arkansas Little Rock. It was fine, but I was like, I really think I could do better. And so I took the test again, gripped the bat a little less tight, basically studied for the LSAT like it was just another course in school.
Yeah.
And made the exact same score.
Like, what is this about?
Exactly. And so I was like, well, what's wrong here? Like, and I was like, I just didn't feel it. And it really, like, I was trying to fill like my hours because I needed to be full time to graduate, and I needed a certain amount of hours. So I had like one more class, but it could be anything I wanted. And I took a theater class. Actually, it was a public speaking class taught by the theater department.
Nice.
So I was in a play that semester. It really took to that. Like, it was kind of a role that had been like written loosely, and then like we added more parts for like me, and then that guy hooked me up with a production company that produced an audio sketch show that
Cool.
I still have. I never released because there's some parts that are just like wildly sophomoric and terrible, and like they should never see the light of day. But a lot of it really holds up, which was pretty surprising. But then so I was just looking at like what I really wanted to do, and I didn't think law was it.
Yeah.
And it just didn't feel like. It felt like if I really wanted to be a lawyer, I'd still really want to be a lawyer next year. And so my thought was, well, I'm going to save money and go to Second City. That's
Nice.
what I'm gonna. That's what my new goal is going to be.
Yeah.
And so I moved back to Little Rock, moved back in with the folks for a little while. I got a job at like a bookstore for like a day or for like a couple months. And then I was a humor editor of the school newspaper at my college. So I parlayed that into a writing gig as like a journalist.
Nice.
I wrote feature stories, dumb like little, feature stories that you would read in like small town newspapers.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting promoted to cover statewide or national politics for the statewide news bureau in Arkansas.
That's
and ended
pretty
up
rad.
I was on like Rachel Maddow and like did like a bunch of like cool like journalism stuff. So
That's
it was kinda
great.
So it was kind of like, oh no, this is kind of like cool. And
This is what I was attracted to, the poli sci part.
Yeah, and so it was like that kind of like scratched that itch a little bit, but I also I ran like, this is in 2008, 2009, so like blogs weren't like everywhere, like like personal blogs. So, like I had one, and that like kind of like, I wouldn't say put me on the map in Arkansas or some crap like that, I would say, but like I was well known for that spell. For that like year and a half I was a journalist. And so that felt good. But then I moved up to St. Louis as like all the journalism jobs were like drying up, and they were already drying up in Arkansas. But like I moved to a city where you are 2 hours away from one of the best journalism schools in the country.
Yep.
So there's like, it's terrible to move to St. Louis without that. And so it was just, I ended up getting another media job and working in there, and I've been there ever since. But like never felt the itch to go to law school, or like felt like, you know what I should have done.
Well, that's cool that you realized it early.
Lawyer. Like, well, I
could have wasted quite a bit of money.
Well, that's kind of that's my thing. I used to, sort of like read these like articles about like in the recession how kids would graduate from law school and there wouldn't be any jobs.
And that was right when you would have been coming out, probably. Dead.
So that's kind of like, because I've always like felt this sort of like tangential like resentment from my dad. Like, just, like, not really, and he would never say that. He would always just say like, "Oh,
but there's something deep down in the rib region."
I just kind of like feel
like,
like he probably thinks I still should have been a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so, but like, so I'd like read that and be like, "Oh, okay, well that's fine." And I never really like felt it. And I work in advertising now, which is like a pretty good like creative field and they really support the side stuff. Like when I interviewed for it, all they wanted to talk about was this comedy show that I invested in on Broadway. That's all they wanted to talk about the entire time. So they really appreciate that. Like I did the 48-hour film festival.
Yeah, you guys did pretty well, right? This year.
We won the most awards out of anybody. We didn't win the whole thing.
I watched it. It was really
funny. Yeah. So it was really fun. But I did it with work people, and they were really supportive of us doing like that. They let us use the office for what we shot in.
How'd you guys write that?
We did it a lot like our sketch pad.
Nice.
We had me and Jason worked together.
It seems like it was pretty well because I can hear your voice a lot when I was watching it.
Yeah, so we brainstormed like a lot about like because they give you like a theme and then some other stuff, and so ours was either a fable or a buddy film, and so we were like, what if
you
we
always go buddy film?
Well, we did a buddy film that turned into a fable because like we ended up having this great idea. Like at the end, somebody threw out that what if it were purgatory? Because that was something that like we weren't thinking of with like dumb buddy film like themes. So I think I had like kind of like the general outline. And the way I write is, especially like sketches, is I see the whole thing. I see the beginning, the middle, and the end all at once, and then I have to
awesome.
then I have to outline it, and then you fill in the outline. And so we just did, we did that with like coworkers who didn't really perform, and like cameramen who are used to taking like production shots for these like companies.
It looked really professional.
Yeah, it looked really good. Obviously we knew we weren't going to win the big thing because like there were like people who like really.
And I'm pretty sure most of that stuff's pre-written, or at least like they like know kind of some stuff they're going in with.
Yeah, there were some teams who were.
It's like really, you guys had 28 costumes ready already.
There were some teams who were pissed that they did not get like more because like they have all these advances, but then the story was ass. Like it just sucked. So we were like, I felt like we had a really like good sort of like story that everybody wanted to be a part of on our team. But again, these are just like coworkers. We all work in like an advertising agency. Like not everybody was even like the creative end of it. Like a lot of them are just like strategists. So like that was, again, like I just have not felt the need like, oh, you know what? I'm really not being fulfilled right now. I should have gone to law school. But I think it's like really cool to see like some people like feel that and like go and do that because like I don't know. I still like I never served, but like I was born on a Marine base because my dad was in the Marines. And so, like, I sort of feel this, like, sort of, like, ethereal kinship with, like, Marines.
Yeah.
Like, there's almost, like, this, like, ethereal, like, kinship with, like, lawyers to be like, oh, yeah, that was a path for me.
Of course.
I really, like, understand, like, kind of, like, what, not obviously, like, what all goes into, like, law school, but, like, I recognize that path. That's a very good path. Like, good. That's awesome. So
I'm a real man. Respect me.
You're a real boy.
I can do something. That was good. That knocked out, like, 3 or 4 questions just in one impetus of a question because I wanted to talk about 48 out.
You were holding cue cards in front of me.
It's
like
true, but you
like it was SNL.
know how to improv well with the cue cards, which is the best. What does your wife think about what you do comedy wise? Does she support and come out to some stuff or?
She supports.
Nice.
She does not come out to.
Probably for the best. I don't like that. I like that my wife doesn't come out to much.
Yeah,
People come out with like their girlfriends and like their new girlfriends, and they come out to every show, and you're like, this isn't gonna work out.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, she'll come to like big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She'll come to do different. If there's like a big new show, she'll come for that. Or if she wants to see like, if I've got like a new, or she hasn't come in a while, she'll come. She'll bring a friend because a lot of our friends like will want to see, and I don't. I remember when I first started improv, it was like, yeah, I'm doing the show. Come on out, like everybody. Like, yeah, come on out to the show.
Yeah.
That wears out after like the third show.
Of course.
And it's a bad show.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to pick my spots with her just because she's not a performer. She's very funny, but she's not a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just kind of have to be. She's also somebody who, and this is why like. I almost said that like I feel like I'm funnier when she's not there, but that's not true. What it is she is somebody who doesn't like seeing an unfinished product. She likes seeing the like fancy things.
So she'll critique you or something on it?
Oh no, she's very critical, like in a good way. Like it's always true.
Yeah.
It's always true, but like stand up is always about like honing. Basically, it's only
of
done.
Course.
It's only done when you put it in the can and like sell it to Netflix or like wherever, or like travel with the show, like whatever. And she doesn't like seeing like a work being done. She likes the finished product. So like fancy things. She hated fancy things. She was like, I don't get it. And I was like, I really don't get it either. I just think it's like kind of like I think it's inescapably stupid and
open-ended idea.
And part of what's funny is that it keeps going without changing. It's just this like repetition. Well, the joke I always say in the show is that part in A Beautiful Mind where she goes out to the shed and there's all like the wires and papers and crossings and all this like this guy who is schizophrenic is imagining all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to my shed, because it like has all these like images drawn up, and it killed. Like she went to the Pachacacha where I did fancy things. She brought a friend who was already going.
Nice.
And she was just kind of looking around.
You're like, we're
all
breaking
these,
up.
people.
Did you just see what I did up there?
That's the thing. Like it's never with like with malice or malintent. It's always just like stealthily accurate. Like, well, you really need to be doing this. Like, what's your point here? Like, there was one time I was complaining, like, because I do all this like character work, and it feels like that's what my one goal is. And I'm like, well, if I'm not just like otherwise I'm just a straight white guy spilling like observations. Nobody needs that. She's like, if anybody did that, there'd be no comedy in the world. What are you talking about? Stop being lazy. Write a good fucking joke. And I was like,
I love you.
I love you. You're right. You're absolutely.
And then you walk into your writing room and she smacks you on the ass or something.
Yeah. Go get me a steak. Go get me a steak and a beer, hon. Yes, ma'am.
You're never gonna be a Marine with that attitude.
No, she's great in that way, and like I said, she's very funny, so I don't have to worry about.
That's
like,
awesome that she is like critical in like a good kind of like a helpful way,
That's
and
very
you'll never
supportive.
get too confident.
Oh, never.
Or like over confident.
Never. No, she'll make sure of that. No,
Like I sold at Madison Square Garden. She's like, you didn't sell that punchline right, hon. So.
how many shows though? Just one. Aziz sold out 4 nights in a row, so I think he did 2 on Saturday. Piece of shit. No, she's great.
I love you so much, baby. Shout out to your wife for being awesome. I've met her.
Shout
once.
out
She's
to your significant others.
real peach, along with my wife, as always. What is your goal with this whole comedy thing? Or is there one?
Well, I try to be a little bit more. I used to have like very like, all right, I need to do this, and then I need to do that, and then by this time, if we haven't done that, it's a failure. It sucks. So I stepped a little bit away from that and just kind of like went with the flow of like what I was feeling. I would go into like writing and drawing, and then kinda, like, but then like I said earlier, it kind of felt like I wasn't serving like everything, and kind of like you realize it all comes from the same creative like source, the same spot. So I'm very open to whatever like comes, but I'm very deliberate with like my goals. Like I write like yearly goals. Like
nice.
Actually in 15. I wrote, okay, so I want to finish Fancy Things, the book. I want to put up a live show, and I want to do comedy I hadn't done comedy outside of St. Louis at that point in 2015. So in 2016, I did all those things. Like
nice.
I meant to do them by the end of 15.
Yeah.
When I wrote it, like I wrote it in like June of 15.
Nice.
But that's when I started Sketchpad. I was like, one of my goals was, hey, go out and meet people because you've been tucked away writing. I got married in 14, so I didn't really like that whole year. I kind of like just didn't do much. I was always busy, and so I, took steps in order to do that. So I did that last year too, and got like most of it done. Like a lot of it is like just kind of making sure you're always prepared. I'd love to. I mean, I don't really think there's like a secret. I'd love to move to like New York and like
nice.
really like get like a writing job and like it's or get a writing
so would
job
that be like a 5-year goal? It'd be like New York.
I mean, but it's not like, but it's even if we end up like staying here in St. Louis, it's still stuff I'm not like so tethered to like if I don't write for Stephen Colbert,
the Colbert,
I'm gonna run my car into a train. Like I'm not gonna do anything like that. But like part of it is seeing like some peers like go and do really amazing things that both like small and large, like like just going from like my improv group, like Andy Slowey was one of my first coaches when he just moved back from Chicago, and Melanie Penn was on my team, and now they help run the improv shop, which is now this amazing
unreal.
To me, it's the best room for comedy in like St. Louis.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like stand up, like you're not gonna get much stand up.
Their
there,
mics are the best. I love their mics.
They have great mics. They always have great receptive audience. They've really created a culture of like excellence like there. And then Jo is like she writes for Fallon, and like she has like Punderdome and does like all this other stuff. Seeing that it can be done, it requires a level of like execution. It's sort of like if you're just starting out, there's a level of do. So like there's a level of, well, I'm in town for this wedding. Yeah. I'm going to call some people and try to go in early. We'll go in, instead of going in for the wedding on Saturday, instead of going on Friday, I'm going to go in on Thursday. I'm going to do 3 shows on Thursday. Nice. Yeah. Okay, so we'll see if we can book it. Okay, I did it. So cool. I did that. getting in touch with just like, friends who run shows in like other towns and be like, oh, would you mind if I hopped on this show sometime? Yeah, now you do that, and that actually opened me up to do like,
another
this
show. Yeah.
And then, just kind of making sure you always have to keep yourself open to like opportunities you weren't planning for, but always be moving deliberately so that you can meet those opportunities head on.
Comedy's cool these days. You can kind of ask for, in some ways you can ask for what you want, especially for like shows and stuff like that. Like I love when people, when I was booking shows in Denver, were like, hey, I'm coming through. It's like, yeah, of course I want to put you up. Thank you so much for hitting me up.
No, I did a show one time at Helium as one of the showcases, and this dude hitchhiked from Vermont, and he was going to Austin or something, and he came on and just did some time in the middle of like this like showcase. And was it great? No. But was it very different than like what I had seen? I think he did like a lot of like portmanteaus and a lot of like sort of like puns and paraprosdokians, and kind of like he was kind of quippy, I remember. But like, was it great? Had I seen everyone else's set like 30 times? Yes. So it was really like, that's always like really refreshing, and I feel like that is sort of part of the spirit of what like helps local scenes stay fresh, is that you can, I can go do St. Louis, but then I bet if I travel to Denver, I can call a bunch of people
Yeah.
and you would be willing, hopefully as a guest of the podcast and the friend of the show, you'd be able to say, oh yeah, Zack Stovall,
That's what it
He-
is.
he'd
Yeah,
be-
you make
he'd be,
the
like,
connection.
fine. Yeah.
And that's why I kind of moved around a little bit, was to get those contacts whenever I wanted to go touring and do stuff like that. You can do it, but I always try to return the favor as much as possible.
Yeah, you try to.
Sweet. Awesome. Before we get out of here, you want to give where everybody can find you on the webs?
All right, you can go to twitter.com/ZStovall. You can go to facebook.com/fancythings by Zack Stovall.
Nice.
You can go to LinkedIn. I'm big on LinkedIn.
Hot on LinkedIn these days.
Hot on LinkedIn. No, I have a website, Zack Stovall, ZackStovall.com, and there you can find like sketches and you can actually find like drawings. Like if you go to zackstovall.tumblr, you can see all the drawings. And
I like
stuff
how
that.
you spelled it out too, like a real professional. A lot of people just say it.
A lot of people come in with that ZACH bullshit.
That's what I'm saying.
and
That
I have
baloney.
that garbage.
Fake Zacks.
Fake Zacks.
You're Zatch.
Zatch. You know, you ever meet any Mikes who spell it MICH?
Yeah, and you're like,
no,
get
because
outta
we
here,
killed
Mike.
them all.
Yeah, they're dead.
Fucking dead. They're dead where they deserve
Oh,
to be. In the
God.
ground.
Thank you so much for coming out and doing this thing.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You
man.
know where you guys can
Appreciate it.
find us on the interwebs because you're listening right now. Thank you all so much for listening. We will see you all soon.
Wayman.